Blood pooled on the linoleum. She writhed. She vomited. 45 minutes passed. The janitor mopped beside her. A nurse walked past ignoring her. The triage desk stood just feet away untouched. Even callers begging 911 were rebuffed. By the time anyone acted, she was already dying. Please comment where you are watching us from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification. In the early hours of May 9th, 2007, somewhere in South Los Angeles at Martin Luther King Jr., Harbor Hospital's emergency department said a woman would die. Her name was Edith Isabel Rodriguez. She was 43, a mother, someone with a life behind her that too few would ever stop to see. This isn't a story about violence or a mass killer. It is about something more insidious. Neglect, indifference, systemic decay. Edith's death will become a national scandal. It exposed how, in one of America's great cities, a person in agony could be reduced to an afterthought in a hospital lobby. Over the coming days, investigations would peel back layers of protocol failure, human failing, and institutional collapse. But in those final moments, she lay alone. In the days before her death, Edith had sought medical care repeatedly. On May 6, 7, 8 each time she complained of worsening abdominal pain. Each time, she was treated and released with prescriptions, told to go home and rest. On the night of May 9th, something was different. The pain was sharper. She vomited. She became desperate. Shortly after midnight, 2 county police officers responded to a radio call. Female down, yelling for help near the front of the hospital. They found her in the lobby area, demanding care, clutching her stomach. She told them she believed one of her gallstones had burst. She already had a discharge slip from hours earlier. The hospital had instructed her to return if the pain or vomiting worsened. A nurse on duty later identified as Linda Rutland was approached. According to police reports, she showed no concern. She said she had already been seen and that nothing further could be done. The officers assisted her into a wheelchair, brought her into the ER, but she was placed near the reception desk, asked to wait. Moments later, she slumped forward onto the floor. She curled, screamed in pain. She was in motion, convulsing, vomiting. The camera caught her, though grainy, obstructed but unmistakable. She kicked her feet. She writhed. From surveillance video and statements, we know that for 30 minutes or more, staff members walked past her. Some cleaned adjacent floor spaces. A janitor mopped around her while she lay bleeding and in agony. During this time, her boyfriend, Jose Prado, returned. He pleaded, begged. He called 911. He told dispatchers she was dying. He said the staff were doing nothing. But the 911 dispatcher refused to send paramedics. The reason? She's already at a hospital. The dispatcher told him to contact the nurses or doctors on site. No ambulance would be dispatched. Minutes later, a female bystander and another patient also called 911. She said a woman was on the ground, vomiting blood, being ignored. She asked them to send help. The dispatcher argued, "You're already in a hospital. Contact them." She was scolded for complaining. At one point, a nurse reported to responding officers that Rodriguez was causing a disturbance. The triage nurse, Linda Rutland, informed police that Rodriguez should be removed not because she needed care, but because she was disruptive. While police processed the situation, running her record through the system, they discovered there was an outstanding parole violation. They moved to detain her. In the process, she became unresponsive. Officers tried to revive her with ammonia inhalants. Checked a pulse and nothing. She died soon after, on a gurney in the emergency department. Her cause of death was later ruled perforated bowel, an injury that likely would have been treatable if identified earlier. Once news broke, the public reaction was fierce. The image of a woman writhing on the floor while staff ignored her was searing. Major media networks covered the case: CNN, CBS, local Los Angeles papers. The Los Angeles Times reconstructed the final 90 minutes of her life based on video, police reports, interviews, and hospital logs. The U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, launched an investigation, flagging serious deficiencies in care protocols and oversight at King Harbor Hospital. At the county level, the Department of Health Services also undertook a corrective action plan. As investigators dug, 6 hospital staff members, including a nurse and 2 nursing assistants, were disciplined, but the penalties were minimal. Letters of expectation, warnings about future conduct. One contract janitor was verbally counseled. The triage nurse, Linda Rutland, was placed on leave and eventually resigned. The county's explanation repeatedly shifted. Staff were overwhelmed, understaffed, overworked. Defenses claimed that protocols were in place, but human error and misjudgment occurred. The hospital and county officials attempted to cast blame on individual staff rather than structural failure. One complicating factor was that the tape video had never been released publicly. The county cited the ongoing sheriff's homicide investigation, but insiders and reviewers described it. One witness recalled a nurse looking at the patient and then walking back into another part of the ER. Edith's family filed lawsuits, alleging that the hospital's conduct fell below the standard of care in the community. In April 2009, Los Angeles County settled with her children for $3 million. In the ensuing legal proceedings, the case Rutland versus County of Los Angeles brought to light disputes over statements made by health officials, the adequacy of staff training and accountability. In that case, the triage nurse argued that she had not been informed about a patient on the floor needing urgent attention, that she was balancing numerous critical cases, and that emergency rooms are under constant strain. The court documents reveal the internal pressures and layers of responsibility within the hospital bureaucracy. Despite the settlement, no one was criminally charged. The official coroner's ruling remained accidental. But for many, the deeper guilt belonged to the system that let her die. The tragic twist in this case is not a murderer's secret. It is the way the truth was hidden in plain sight. The revelations that emerged under pressure forced the public and staff to confront what nearly everyone wanted to avoid acknowledging. Hospital records claimed she was sitting quietly during that period. They made no mention of convulsing, vomiting, or pain, but the video footage described by multiple sources showed otherwise. Where dispatch logs claimed an ambulance consultation, 911 tapes revealed none. The hospital claimed paramedics were refused because she was already in hospital, but in truth, the hospital itself refused to act. Where staff later claimed they had not been alerted to her state, surveillance and witness statements showed she was visible, pleading, moving. The triage nurse herself allegedly called her a disturbance. It became clear the system had attempted a rewrite. The media exposure forced admissions that staff had walked past her. Janitors had cleaned near her. The triage nurse refused repeated pleas. These acts were not errors of judgment. They were acts of omission. Another twist. During the investigation, staff ran her identity. They discovered a parole violation warrant. That discovery shifted how responders treated her. Some police viewed the situation as a law enforcement matter, not a medical emergency. So when paramedics were never dispatched, staff deferred to police authority. When she became unresponsive, they treated it as a custody issue. The lines between healthcare and policing blurred, and in that blur, her life slipped away. The truth had been there all along in video frames, in 911 transcripts, in the silence of passers-by. The real villain was not one person. It was an architecture of neglect, a culture of dismissal, a hospital with more excuses and compassion. In the wake of the scandal, King Harbor Hospital's reputation cratered. Federal inspections flagged it for immediate jeopardy, meaning that patients were at serious risk of harm. The county placed the hospital under direct oversight. Health officials issued corrective action plans. Funding and accreditation hung in the balance. Some staff left the hospital. Others were quietly reassigned. The triage nurse resigned. But many saw the discipline as perfunctory letters, reassignment, mild sanctions rather than meaningful consequences. Public health groups and advocacy organizations used the case as a rallying point, demanding greater oversight in public hospitals, especially those serving marginalized communities. For Edith's children and relatives, the wound never healed. They lost a mother. They watched officials claim incompleteness, systemic constraints, staff pressures while the human cost remained. A woman died waiting for help that never came. In the settlement, the county gave them millions. But no financial sum can fill the void or erase the questions that linger. Her son, Edmundo, said later, "It's more than negligence. I can't even think of the word." Her sister, Marcela Sanchez, sold tamales to raise funeral costs. She said, if she was on the floor for that long, how in the heck did nobody help her then? Where was their humanity? To this day, the Edith Rodriguez case features in discussions about healthcare inequity, emergency room triage ethics, and systemic neglect in public medicine. Legal scholars dissected Rutland versus County of Los Angeles for what it showed about duty, defamation, and public accountability. Still, no law was passed specifically because of her death. No national commission formed in her name. Her case stands as a cautionary emblem, an indictment of systems that value paperwork over people, protocol over compassion. Hospitals are supposed to be sanctuaries, places where the sick, the broken, the desperate are seen, heard, and healed. But in a hospital lobby in Los Angeles, one woman lay dying, ignored. Her blood pooled. She whispered in pain. She begged. She writhed. And too many walked past. Some stories conclude with verdicts. Some end with gavel thuds or courtroom triumphs. Others settle into silence, swept under the rug of bureaucracy and fear. This one ended in a hospital, but begins anew in questions. Who do we value? Whose pain do we respond to? When those with authority do nothing, what becomes of justice? Edith's death whispers through the sterile halls of emergency rooms everywhere, asking us not to look away, not to forget. If this story shook you, make sure to subscribe to Cold Case Secrets, where we uncover the truth behind the world's darkest mysteries. Thank you for watching Cold Case Secrets.